My name's Phil, I'm alcoholic. I won't say thank you for getting me to do this, but I will say thank you for keeping the meeting going, yeah. And whether I come again, we'll see at the end of this. I don't know anyway. Anyway, my name's Phil, I'm alcoholic. One thing I must, before I forget, I listened to a program on the radio, Radio 4 over here, and it was somebody talking about dementia, and not Alzheimer's, but early age dementia. And the neurologist right at the end said there's about people at 40, 50 getting it. And she said there's an old Irish proverb. She said, under the shelter of each other, people survive. And I thought that'd be a great slogan for AA, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? And then I thought, when did AA start in Ireland? It was 1946. A similar story to Phil and Dr. Bob, actually. That's by the way. So I'm 75 years of age, and I was 30 years sober in February this year. Or it might have been 28 and a half. I'll explain that later on at the end in about 20 minutes. I wanted two sons. My parents had two sons. My brother was 5 years older than me. And my father he was born a Welsh miner. He left school at 14, went down the pits at 14 in the Welsh mines. I'll always remember he had black marks where he got scarred and the coal filled the scarring and all that. But then he got out of that. He got out of the mines at 14 and he joined the Welsh Guards, with the old Busby and all that. But by the time I was born in 1948, he worked for the prison service. But if you know anything about, Welsh people in that era, if you ever watched how Green is my valley, the father was the god. Everybody behaved him, everybody did what exactly he said. And as soon as the sons got old enough to disagree with him, they had to get out of the house. They couldn't stay in the same house. The father ruled it tremendously. So, but my father was strict, but not that strict, not as strict as the upbringing he had. But then being a prison officer as well, he's used to disciplining people as well. But no complaints on that score. And he did think about his family, he did. When I first started walking, I used to be very knock-kneed. And I had to wear these leg irons, these calipers, and on both legs. And I don't remember them. I don't honestly remember them. And I asked my cousin, who's the only person alive who still remembers, and she said I had them on for a long time. He said, I think you started school with them on. But I don't actually remember them, to tell you the truth. But she said she used to, me clomping behind her saying, wait for me, because I couldn't keep up. But I did have them off at, some stage. And my legs are fine now, thank you very much. But I've got no memory of them as such, no physical memory, though I probably wore them until about 5 or 6. Until I went to Malta. I'm at the dumb. Until I went to Malta, and Malta's a small island, about 9 miles by 17. It's got 360 churches. And one of these churches is where people go to be healed, I don't know if it's the water or get a special blessing or something like that, I don't know. And you walk down the corridor, there's always letters from people all over the world saying, I came here and I was cured, I came here and I was cured, and things like that. And I was walking down the corridor looking, and I turned around and bang, in this glass case of the leg irons, the calipers I used to wear. Obviously not mine, there's some girl who had them on as well. But, and I remember the terror turning around and seeing them. But I couldn't have drawn them, and I couldn't have described them. So it depends what the memory remembers anyway. But what happened was, my father's in the prison service, and obviously he thought, poor little sod, and he was in Bristol, in a big city, in a big prison there. So what he did, he downgraded his position to a borstal, which is in the country. And he thought, the poor little sod's got to wear these irons, for years. I'll take him to the country, So he did think about his family and all that. Apparently they used to hurt me, and my mum used to say she used to ask my dad go and take them off. He said no, they got to keep them on to get his legs straight. And my legs are fine now, you know. I've got to buy jeans 36 inches long, but that's because I'm tall, not because my legs been repaired. So I was quite happy in the country, plodding along, and you know, I just plodding along, and that was it. So after the leg irons came out, he moved again. He got a better position as a prison officer, and we went to the Isle of Wight actually, and I was quite happy there as well. 'Cause I used to go out walking in the woods and looking for lizards and snakes and voles, and I used to have a jackdaw on a bit of stick on my shoulder, you know, a tame jackdaw. And I was quite happy doing that, and but there was something. Looking back now, I realise I wasn't much of a mixer or something like that. You know, two things stand out. I got picked for the school football team, and played at home, and I played one game. And they said next week we're away at Sandown, which is about 8 miles away. You know, and I thought nobody's told me how to get there. You know, what I mean? Nobody. And I waited till Friday afternoon, but nobody told me how to get there. I remember standing in the garden, 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday, thinking they kicked the ball off, and I'm not there. But why didn't I have the guts to go up to somebody and say I'm new? I don't know how to get there. Stupid. I didn't have the guts to go and do that. And I didn't want people to judge me, I think, all the time. I was in the scouts. In the scouts, you oh dear, you get all different badges for all different things. And there's one is holding a conversation, okay? And what they do, you give you a coin, you got to go and phone the scout mistress up and have a conversation with her for 5 minutes. So I phoned this lady up twice, so I never passed that test at all. Just couldn't speak to her, you know what I mean? So there's something wrong with me in that respect. But not that I was aware of. Not that I was aware of. So that was it. When I was getting on 14, my parents moved again. And because in the prison service, same as the forces, to get moved around every 3 or 4 years. And actually, I've heard a few people in AA say when I was 13, 14, 15, in the forces, I got moved. And I've heard a few people in AA, so perhaps it doesn't do you good to be moved at that age. And that's when the trouble started, really. I wasn't well behaved. I started messing around at school. I was just a pain, and showing off, class clown, but not good, not good. And it just bad. More than one, no, just once actually. It's a boys' school. There's a separate girls' grammar school the other side of the road, and apparently somebody in our school was swearing at one of the girls. So the school complained to our school, and the deputy headmaster came up and said, "You've been swearing at girls," and it wasn't me actually, believe it or not. It wasn't me, but he said we got a choice. I either cane you now or you go and see the headmaster. So I took the caning. But I remember thinking at the time, I've got away with murder for other things. I deserve to be caned, but my behaviour wasn't good and disrespectful, class clown, village idiot almost, and not good. So that was it. I left school at 18. I wasn't. I had been out. I had drunk before then, but what it was, one of the schoolmates, who were only 16, used to borrow his brother's car. Sneak out of the garage because you're not allowed to drive in this country till you're 17. And we used to go drive his brother's car to the pub, have one pint, and then drive back. We thought we were really adult. But that was it. Just drank. So I left home and left school at the same time and moved to London. Well, I got a job, and no excitement really. No excitement. Uh, I just worked. I've always worked, and that was it. I moved cities here and there, but no great, nothing to talk about really, you know. And I did various jobs. In fact, I got a job as a door-to-door encyclopedia salesman. You know what I mean? And I was really good at that, but I couldn't knock on doors. Right? Once I got in the house, I was okay. I was fine, and I was really well paid once I got in the house. But I had trouble knocking on the door. You know. So when that finished, you know, when that finished, I went home. What I did, I went home and to my parents. And what I did, I had a couple of bags which I dumped in a field near where they live. I went home, spent a couple of days with them, you know, and then I got somebody to send me a telegram, said I needed so and so. So that got me out of the house for a good reason. I went and picked my bags up and just got on the train and got off the train where it stopped, which was Portsmouth, believe it or not. I slept on the beach the first night, and actually some people came down about 12 o'clock to go swimming. I remember hiding in the sand so they wouldn't see me, you know, swimming. But anyway, next day I got a job, a place to work, and it was job starting nights actually, night work, and then a pattern started. I used to go to work, leave work in the morning. The pubs open at 10 o'clock. Go to the pubs, drink till about 2, and then just go home, go to sleep, then go to work again. And that was a cycle. That was a cycle. And I was drinking too much then, definitely, definitely. Uh, in fact, I remember I used to drink Special Brew, which is a lager over here. I remember changing that to a different lager because I kept bouncing off shop windows with this, you know, Special Brew. But the lager I changed to was 9.5% alcohol, where Special Brew was only 9%. So there was a reason for it. And all my friends were my age, about late 20s. So it was, you know, 1970s just about. And most of them took drugs actually, but I was never interested in drugs, never ever. And so you know, we used to go to the pub, and I used to bring some cans of lager back, and they used to sit around doing what they did with the drugs, and I just sat there with my lager, and I was fine with that, you know. In fact, one of my best friends, he got locked up for dealing drugs, and I remember going to visit him in Winchester Prison. But trouble is, you got to give your particulars when you go and visit somebody. I was a bit frightened the dog squad were going to follow me around, you know. But they never did because I didn't take drugs. I wasn't interested. But Boo's right. So I changed jobs. Well, probably 6, 7 years later, and started working day shifts and a similar job, same job, which I was getting quite good at now. And I met a lady and I married her. I married her at 36. And but luckily, not luckily, but as it was, the job I was in, I worked long hours. I used to work from 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning till 7, half 7, 8 o'clock at night, depend on me. So you're never sure when I came home, never. And it's what I used to do, which is a bit of shame, a bit sorry really. I used to leave work half hour earlier than I got home. And I used to go to the off license and just sit in a lay-by for an hour and just drink, you know. I used to throw my cans over the hedge into a field, you know. And it's a bit of a sad really. It's a nice, you got a family at home, loving family at home, and you'd rather sit in a lay-by for an hour and drink. Uh, I did that a lot because I remember once threw my can over the hedge and I heard a chink as it hit another can. So I started parking a bit further along, you know what I mean? So Now I think it's disgraceful throwing cans in fields, but at the time it seemed a good idea. Remove the evidence, you know what I mean? So that was it. She never knew how much I drank. So so that was it. So but then I got a much better job, which meant relocating to a different town, and but there I only worked 9 till 4:30, and she knew it. So what happened was I had to come home 5 o'clock and just sit in the patio outside, and drink and talk to myself. And if it rained, I got wet. And after a few months of this, she said to me, she said, "There's something wrong with your drinking." She said, "You come home, just sit outside in the patio and drink. If I make an appointment, if it rains, you get wet. If I make an appointment with the GP, would you come with me?" Yeah, okay. I was getting tired. I was fed up. So we went to see the GP on a Tuesday night, 6 o'clock. And give her due, she came in with me and she told the truth. She said there's something wrong with his drinking. He comes home at night, he sits on the patio talking to himself, drinking, and if it rains, he gets wet. And the GP said, "What I do, I'll refer you to the consultant psychiatrist who deals with that in this county, and we don't call people like you alcoholics, we just say alcohol problem. They're called marital, money, job problems, that's it." That was a Tuesday. I got a phone call Friday morning from this consultant psychiatrist. He said, "Can I come and see you?" I said, "Yeah, okay." I thought, well, that's quick. I'm impressed with that. "Can I come tonight?" I was even more impressed with that. I said, "Okay." So we sat on the same patio, but I didn't drink, and I told him a bit more. I told, he asked the right questions, obviously, and I told him a bit more, and about how much I drank and things like that. And we sat out there for an hour and a half. And he said, "What I'd like you to do," he said, "I'd like you to come into my hospital for 2 weeks and get dried out." I said, "Well," and then a voice said, "Tell him about the whiskey," right? What was happening, my wife was leaning out the bedroom window listening to us. Never occurred to me she would do that, but clever girl, good for her. And he said, "What's this about whiskey?" I said, "I don't drink it." I thought he was going to say, "You poor sod, you've got to put up with that." "I don't drink it," I said. "No, I don't." "Why not?" he says. "Well," I said, "I like it too much." He said, "Well, I'd like you to come in for 5 weeks into my hospital if you can. I said, "When?" He said, "Monday." Well, I said, "I don't know, I'm pretty busy at work." "Well, if you can," he said, "phone me up before 11 o'clock. And if you can make it, get to my hospital by 2 o'clock." So I went in to see my boss Monday morning. I said, "I got to go to the hospital." "Oh," he said, "when?" I said, "This afternoon." But he never asked me why. Isn't that weird? Never even asked me why. So that's when I attended this old Victorian mental hospital in the UK on that Monday afternoon for 5 weeks. And I was quite happy there, really. I joined the library, got books out of the library. It was July, August, so I used to sit outside reading, while other people inside were doing whatever they were doing. There were 6 alcoholics and 6 manic depressants in the ward. And I asked 3 different people in the hospital 3 different questions. So I found out how to get a bus to go into town, get the alcohol I wanted, and bring it back. And there used to be 2 lakes in this hospital. One had a fallen tree in it, and what I used to do, as I said, it was pretty warm. I used to get my cans of lager in my carrier bag, walk along this trunk, and then suspend them from a branch into the water so it cooled down. And I'll come back later on. There were people fishing in this lake, they were fishing away, and they must have watched me walk along this trunk, hang this drink into the water. And there's me thinking, I know exactly how much is in this carrier bag. If any of you take it, I know which one of you took it. And they're just looking at me thinking there's another loony in there from the loony bin. It's true, yeah. Anyway, first afternoon I got there, they said, right, what's going to happen? They go through your bags and everything. You make sure you got nothing, which I was annoyed about. And then they said, you're okay for the afternoon. At 5 o'clock, we come round with the medicine, with the drugs. I said, I'm not taking drugs. You got to. I said, I'm not taking them. They said, you've got to. Whilst I'm going home then. I'm not taking them, sorry. I'm not sitting there like an idiot. No, I'm not. So she went away and came back and said, you've got to take them. I said, I'm going home then. So she went away and came back and said, all you got to take is the vitamin B1 or whatever it is. I said, yeah, I'll take that. I'm not taking any drugs. So they used to come around at 5 o'clock and give all these drugs to all these other patients. And a couple of them came to me and said, why don't you put your name down? And if you don't want them, pass them on to me, And apparently what they used to do is save them up, and then have a good little party by themselves. Anyway, I didn't have to take drugs. Well, after 3 weeks of this, I wanted to drink more. I wanted to drink more than just the afternoon. So I did a runner. I went for tea at 6 o'clock on Friday, went down the train station. There's always an off license by a train station. And 3:30 the next morning, I was in a churchyard about 250 miles away. And that's when I thought, God, I'm in trouble now. What do I do? Because, the hospital's going to say he's done a runner, and my wife's going to say he's drinking. I told you he had a problem with alcohol, and I said, I remember saying to myself, it's not, the alcohol is not the problem, it's everything else. It's her, the job, everything. So I thought, what do I do? What do I do? Well, I'm going to have to go back. I must go back, whatever I do. And I'll go back. And so I went back 2 days later and walked in the hospital. And policeman came to see me. He told me off because they obviously reported me missing, He told me off as well. But I had an appointment to see the consultant, actually in the hospital, in 2 mornings' time. And I thought, what do I do? If he asks me if I'm drinking, he's going to kick me out of the hospital because I signed a form saying he can kick me out of the hospital. What do I do? And then the wife's going to say, see, I told you had a problem with drinking. So and a couple of people in the ward have been to AA. They said it didn't work for us. We keep an open mind, let's go along, And luckily, if you went to see the matron on the ward, she phoned up somebody in AA and they used to come and pick you up, give them their due. And so somebody came and picked me up that night and took me to an AA meeting. And a bloke called Pat, a bricklayer, shared. And he's apparently still around, somebody told me. And he told people things I didn't think you could tell people, things like wetting the bed. I thought, shut up, you fool, we don't tell people things like that. And this and that. I thought, what's up with this? What's up with that man? And I thought, hello, I think this is a trap. They're trying to get me to say something, Well, they're not going to do that, are they? So then I went to another AA meeting the next night, which I don't really remember anything about. And then I went to see the consultant in the hospital the next morning. And they have a nurse with you, your case nurse, they call it or something. First of all, he said, if you're going to leave the hospital, please let us know. You are a voluntary patient, but we are responsible for you. And never ask me if I've been drinking. Never asked me. So I never had to lie or whatever I was going to do. And the nurse next to me said, oh, he's going to AA now. Oh, are you? He said. What do you think to it? I said, it's all right, isn't it? It's okay. That's funny, he said. I never thought that would suit you. Anyway, so I I probably did 2 or 3 other AA meetings in the last 2 weeks I was there, and I got a list of all the meetings when I left. And after 5 weeks, I left the hospital, and that was it. And I went back to work, and I didn't. I got a feeling I didn't drink for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But I've always been one to sort my life out once and for all, especially if Monday is the first of the month. So I sat down with all my pens and papers, and my different coloured pens on a Saturday night it was, and planned my life for the next, plan my life. And I bought 4 cans of Calibar, which is non-alcoholic lager, right? No alcohol at all. And I put them in the fridge, and I thought I'd drink them while I'm working on my plan for life. And I had 2 of them, and I went to get the third, and as I got the third, this is funny, for 10 pence extra a can, I can get the real stuff, can I? So I started drinking again. But I still went to AA probably once, twice a month, and I don't know why I did. I like the stories. I've always liked the stories in AA. I can sit and listen to stories forever in AA, and that was it. I used to go to 1, 2 meetings a month probably. But I used to drink on the way home, and drink my can of lager and throw it over the car roof as I drove home. And I used to get in the kitchen, sit down, open a can of lager. That was my first one. And my wife came in the kitchen and said, "Do these people in AA know you're drinking?" Right? I said, "You don't understand, do you? You don't understand. You only have to have the desire, right? To stop drinking." That was it. Anyway, so I just carried on drinking, that was it. A few months later, I got arrested in a lay-by for being drunk in charge of a car. And the law I had to go to court. Now, the law in UK is if you're caught driving under the influence, you're automatically banned. If you're caught in charge, that's sat in a car with the keys available, you not necessarily are banned, okay? But normally you would be, but sometimes you're not. And the magistrates didn't didn't bar me. They allowed me to carry on driving, but you get so many points on your license, which lasts 10 years, and you can't do any motoring offence whatsoever in the next 10 years, or you will lose your license, right? So for the first 9.5 years of my sobriety, I was driving around, behaving the law wonderfully in the car, which I always do nowadays anyway. So when I came back from the court, my wife was really, really fed up that I didn't get banned. All she was hoping, give her due, that I would see common sense and realise, but I had my self-knowledge about my condition and my alcoholism was non-existent, delusional, right? Well, after a few more months of this, I got totally fed up with everything. I thought, enough of this. I left my wife, I left my job, I left the family, and I moved to a different city. And I thought, right, I'm going to move to this different city. Everything's gone. I've got no worries whatsoever. I moved on January the 1st. I had to start my new job on January the 4th. I thought I'd drink for one day, then I'll stop. And then when I go back home to see the wife, etc., she'll think, wow, he stopped drinking. It was us all the time and not him. I knew that would happen. So I drank on January the 1st, and I got up on January the 2nd, and I couldn't stop drinking. It astounded me. It smashed me. And I still remember my brain searching for a reason, an excuse, and it couldn't find one. It started searching, and then bang, all of a sudden I realised it's me. It's me all the time. and that was stunning. I've never been the same since. I really am, and I really haven't. So then I knew I was in trouble because it was me, and that's a blessing that was, because if it happened 3 or 4 days later, I would have blamed the new job or blamed this or blamed that. But for a very short period of time, I had nobody to blame, and my brain realised it was me all the time. But luckily, I was coming to AA, wasn't I? So I know the answer. So I used to get the train down London, do 2, 3, 4 meetings a day, and just get drunk on the train back. I couldn't understand why. You know, what I didn't realise, if at 8 o'clock in the morning I said I'm not going to drink, at 12 o'clock I still meant it, at 3 o'clock I still meant it, at 5 o'clock, well, I don't know, and by 7 o'clock I was drinking, right? I didn't realise, and not for a long time in sobriety, that this condition I've got, this malady I have, has the power to change my mind without me realising it. And that's the delusional bit. And that's the powerlessness of my alcoholism. So that's what used to happen. I used to, but I did it. So and then all of a sudden, I went to a Wednesday morning lunchtime meeting in London, and I was just sat there, probably about 40 people in it. And the woman shared, I don't know what she said, no idea. And they, people put their hands up to share things. And I was getting a bit fed up by then. And this one man just put his hand up and he said, da 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 da. And he said, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. He said, I shouldn't back horses, he says. But there's no reason why I can't look at the form, is there? Right? And people laughed at that. And I thought, that's not funny. What are people laughing at? I was really annoyed about this. So I put my hand up and I finally said something in an AA meeting. I don't know what I said, but I was really fed up. People laughing, and you wouldn't laugh if you knew how I felt. And anyway, at the end of the meeting, 3 people came up and gave me their phone number. 2 men and a lady, right? And the lady said, "Come and have a cup of tea with me next door," right? And so I did, and we had a cup of tea, and little chat, I suppose. And then she said, "Phone me anytime you like. Here's my phone number." The other 2 people who gave me the phone numbers, one I've never seen again, but one I saw the following Friday, 2 days later. He was a greeter at a 6 o'clock Chelsea meeting I went to. And the only reason I went to that, because all the rock stars go to that, and they were there. And he shook my hand, but he didn't recognise me. I thought, well, I'm not phoning you up, you don't recognise me. So anyway, I left the cafe and I went to another meeting that afternoon at the Salvation Army. And that was quite good, The first time ever I heard a guy with tattoos explaining to a newcomer, this young lady, what a geographical was, I never knew what a geographical was. I've heard people say it, but nobody's ever explained it to me. And he explained it very well, and I understood that. But then he got to 5 o'clock, so I went to the pub and there's a stripper on, so I quite haven't thought 5 o'clock in the afternoon in London on a Wednesday, a stripper, disgraceful. And so I quite enjoyed that. And I just got drunk on the train home, right? I must go back and see that stripper's still there, but not really. So I did phone this lady up next morning, and I thought I'll wait till 8:30 because people start work in London later, don't they? I'll go and phone her at 8:30. She wasn't working, but I didn't know that. So when I phoned her, I remember planning the phone call. I'm going to say, "Hello, it's Phil here," okay? And if she said, Phil who? Sod the lot of you. You never see me again. So I said, "Hello, it's Phil here." "Hello, Phil, how are you doing?" Really enthusiastic. Wonderful. Just what I needed. Great. So I spoke to her and I said, "I'll phone you tomorrow," and I phoned her tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure I phoned her every day. And some days, believe it or not, I did say I'll phone you tomorrow and I won't drink. And on those days, I didn't drink. But on the days I said I'll phone you tomorrow, uh, I I not I did drink. You understand that? Well, but I knew I had to stop. Okay, and I knew I had to stop, and I knew I had to stop soon, really soon. So I thought, right, that day is my brother's birthday. So if he, if when I say, if I was speaking to him, I'll say I packed up drinking. But when he said, actually, it was your birthday, I'll say. So I remember the date. But it got to that date and I drank. Okay. But that night, I did go to a meeting of the most sober man in Britain. Okay. And I sat and listened to him. I remember working out if I stop drinking today, I can't live, and get that much sobriety. I can't live that long. So not much point really, is there? But I did get up the next day and I said, right, sat down and said, today's the day I stop drinking, even if I die. Right? And I really meant that. And that is the day I stopped drinking. Uh, so about 9 months later, I went to this meeting again with this most sober man in Britain, right? And the man's insane. He really was insane. You know what I mean? Really. And it got me thinking. The only reason we know he's the most sober person in Britain is because he said so, isn't it? Nobody proves it. Nobody proves it. Anyway, so I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking that day. So I phoned this American lady up and said, right, I've done it. I've stopped drinking. Today is the day. Oh, great, she says. I'm going back to New York on Sunday. Oh, God, I thought, you can't leave me now. This is, you can't leave me now. But come down and see me, she said, on Saturday, day before I go. So I got the train down. It was last Saturday in February, actually. And it was snowing, believe it or not. And we walked through the snow a bit in London. And she said, you're going to remember this day, walking through London, 6 days sober in the snow. And she's right, I did. And she said, you're going to be all right. I said, I don't know about that. She said, you're going to be all right. You got smart feet. Okay? You go to meetings. And that's what I did. I had smart feet and I went to meetings. So, the first disaster was alcoholism. The second disaster was certainly sobriety. Oh, it's absolute misery. Day after day after day, I wanted to drink. And quite often, as many a day, I got up and thought I can't go out. If I go out, I'll drink. So I'll sit here till 7 o'clock at night, get in the car and go straight to the meeting. And then I'll be all right. And that happened many times. And I used to smoke in those days, and sometimes I woke up and only had 6 fags to last me all day. And I thought I can't go out and buy fags because I'll drink. So I sit here with these 6 miserable fags until 7 o'clock, and then go out, get some fags, and I'll be okay. And I thought, this happened 3 weeks ago. Why didn't you get 40 fags in like you were going to, Because I didn't think it would happen to me. So I just went to AA meetings, I did learn to ask something in the morning to keep me sober, go to an AA meeting and say thank you at night. And I did that every day religiously. And it worked. And the reason it worked, in my opinion, was because it worked the day before and it worked the day before. Don't stop doing it. So that was it. And a few things helped me, a few things helped me. Going to a meeting every day, asking that. There were some rough periods, yeah. When I was 4 years sober, getting on 4 years sober, I get about 3 weeks, 4 weeks off sober. There's a lot of recovered people around, recovered alcoholics who went through the steps in a special way, went to the book in a special way, and they were happy. They were so happy, it was unbelievable. Happy, happy, happy. And I wasn't happy, I just wasn't happy. So I thought what I'd do, I'll drink for one day, get up, pour the drink down the sink, and then start it properly, like these recovered people was, right? And I went on a course to about 100 miles north, and I went to an AA meeting there, and there's a woman there, believe it or not. She said, I'm only 6 weeks sober. She did the share. I know it was, I'm only 6 weeks sober. 6 weeks ago, I was 4 years sober, she said. But I was fed up with everything. So I drank for one night, got up the next day, and poured it all down the sink. And now I'm 6 weeks sober. And my jaw dropped. I could not believe it. My hairs are standing up now. Stunning, really stunning. And anyway, about 3 weeks later, I went to see my friend in New York because I always used to go there in February because February is my anniversary date. And I couldn't say a word in AA meetings, but you nice Americans always say, any visitors, and you just put my hand up and say, Phil from the UK, you know what I mean? Hey, AB celebrating her anniversary, yeah, Phil from the UK, you know. And that's why I always went in February because I got two claps, you know what I mean? But I went to the mustard seed in New York, and the same thing happened. Anybody visiting? Yeah, Phil. any birthdays? You know, this month? Yeah, I'm Phil. I'm 4 years sober this month. And then I thought, I'm not 4 years sober. I can't be 4 years sober. I'm not 4 years sober. And what happened did, from that point in time, for the rest of the meeting, all in my head, I went back in my mind, back in my mind, back in my mind. I went back 4 years. And everything in my brain went clickety click, clickety click, clickety click, clickety. Everything changed in my brain. And I thought, good Lord, I am 4 years sober. I've been insane. Aren't I lucky I kept coming back here? Unbelievable. So I came back Sunday night. I was working Monday night, and I remember 1:30 in the morning. I went out and looked at the moon, you know, with a cigarette. Lovely day, and I looked up and I thought that spaceship that was going to come down, right, and land, and this wonderful woman with lovely legs walking down the aisle, walking down the ladder to me, and saying, "Sorry, we lost you, you know, but we found you again. Get in the spaceship, you're going to be all right." I didn't think that very often, right? If that had ever happened, that would have made sense of my life. It really would have done. And I knew that was never going to happen now. I knew I knew my brain had reset itself, and it got easier then. Everything got easier then, and I was 4 years sober in AA, and I knew exactly what I was doing. About that same time, a woman came up to me in AA and said, I used to go all over the place, different meetings, all, you know, so nobody knew me really, I suppose. And she said, "No, always meetings you go to." She said, "Can you take me? Because I'm going insane. All these same meetings in this city, in Peterborough." She said, "Okay." And then between us, we started filling my car. So every night, there's five of us going somewhere. And five, you know, five there and five there. And we have some great people, great people. There's one woman with a kitchen bowl. I picked her up every night for 2 weeks. And she used to sit in a meeting with a kitchen bowl in case she was sick, right? But she went to a meeting every night with this kitchen bowl. It's unbelievable to see. And anyway, so that was a good time. It got me involved with people and all that. At 7 years, I moved cities. I moved to near Oxford, where I am now. And I thought, right, when I get there, nobody knows me. I'm going to go to meetings and start talking, and they're going to be really impressed with me, aren't they? Sat there, couldn't say a word, paralysed again, paralysed, absolute paralysed. But I had 7 years of somewhere else, so I think, you know, anyway, you settle down. So that was it. I just ticked over. I went to 2 or 3 meetings a week, found the ones I liked, kept going back there. About 12, there was three things I knew I couldn't do when I stopped drinking. One was watch international rugby on TV. Second one was go to Greece again, because I know I couldn't go to Greece because ouzo and lemonade. I am powerless over ouzo and lemonade. Well, about 12 years ago, there's a ravine in Crete where you can walk down, and there's wild lynxes in there, things like that. And some years before, I tried to get there, and I never got there. So I thought I'd go there. So I booked a cheap flight, cheap hotel, about 6 months before. But then, when it got close to the time of going to Crete, I thought I'm not going. I can't trust myself with this ouzo and lemonade. I won't go. I'll lose the money, which wasn't that much. So, but then I thought, what about this New York lady? So I sent a letter to her, to the old address, because I haven't spoke to her for about 15 years, saying please forward. And she was still at the same address. She said, come over and see me. So I went over to see her. And it'd be cheaper to cancel the holiday, but it doesn't matter. And I was going to ask her, I booked this thing to Crete, but I don't trust myself with ouzo and lemonade. I didn't have to. I was just talking to her, about this and that and that. And she said, you know what, Phil? We know how to stay sober, don't we? And I thought, yeah, I do. I know how to stay sober. And that's it. So I went to Crete. I walked down this ravine. And 6 weeks later, I lost both my big toenails. That's by the way, because it's a steep ravine. But what AA has done for me is it's made me more aware. I was never aware before, but I can get out myself and look at myself, and which is good. And I trust myself to stay sober now because I know how to stay sober. And it's because of people, because of the kindness of strangers, people who came up and said hello to me from the very start, and people who remembered my name. People who came up to me and said, hello, Phil, how are you doing? I thought, that stunned me. People remembering my name. Right, Glenn, I'm going to hand it back to you now because I just looked at the watch. You've got 5 minutes, mate. Go on then.